Hey guys, tonight we drift back, way back. The fire flickers low. You're crouched on a patch of dirt, bones crunching underfoot, smoke curling lazily around your head. Somewhere nearby, a hyena laughs. Not the YouTube comment section kind like an actual hyena. You're shivering a little, wrapped in a fur that still smells vaguely of wet dog and regret. And then, someone looks at you across the flames. Just a glance, a flick of the eyes. But in that glance is a universe want-risk calculation. Because tonight, we're talking about what love and sex meant to early humans. And you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and local time. I want to know who's falling asleep to this, and where. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You crouch near the fire, gnawing on sinew, watching embers dance upward into the darkness. There's no language yet, not the kind you'd recognize. But there's meaning in posture, in proximity, and how long someone sits beside you. That slight lean, the shared laugh at someone else falling into the fire pit. It's subtle, primal courtship. And that fire, it's not just for cooking or keeping leopards away. It's a beacon, a stage. Some anthropologists suggest firelight extended human social time into the night, paving the way for storytelling, bonding, and yes, flirting. Picture it, the soft glow hides blemishes, warms faces, and makes eyes look shinier. Candle-lit dinner, try mammoth fat torches and roasted marrow bones. You reach for a roasted root, offer half to the person beside you. Not an accident. That's proto-romance right there. In a world of scarcity, sharing calories is practically a marriage proposal. Historians still argue whether these gestures were conscious or instinctual. Did early humans intend to court each other, or did behavior evolve first, meaning later? Either way, by the flicker of those early flames, something tender was beginning to burn. You watch as two others leave the fire circle, disappearing into the brush. They don't say anything. But the smirks from those who notice, yeah, everyone knows. Privacy is a myth in this world. But discretion's a developing art. Let's talk about scent. The air is thick with sweat, wood smoke, and the sour tang of unwashed everything. But to early humans, this wasn't unpleasant. It was a symphony of information. Pheromones probably played a key role in mate selection, those invisible chemical messengers riding the heat waves between bodies. You breathe them in, not knowing your brain is already drawing conclusions about immune system compatibility and fertility. This is your social circle, 10, maybe 20 others. That's it. If you're lucky, someone's funny. If you're luckier, they have both teeth and symmetrical features, but nobody's perfect. You settle for presence, for warmth beside you in the night, for someone who shares their kill or carries wood when you're limping. Here's a fun tidbit. Some researchers believe early human women may have had hidden ovulation, unlike chimpanzees who advertise their fertility rather extravagantly. Why hide it? The theory goes it promoted pair bonding, encouraging males to stick around longer in hopes of securing paternity. In other words, keeping him guessing kept him close. Evolution, the original rom-com writer. You stretch your legs toward the heat, watching sparks curl upward like tiny orange spirits. Across the flames, someone catches your eye again. They're holding a carved stick, idly scraping at a rock. Art maybe, or maybe it's their version of texting, "Hey, I'm bored." You up, even without words, there's rhythm to the night. People move in and out of proximity, swapping places, shifting alliances. No Tinder, just tension and time. A sudden shriek from the woods snaps everyone's heads around. For a heartbeat, the vibe breaks. That's the other thing about love in the Paleolithic. It's always happening in the shadow of death. If a saber-toothed cat doesn't get you, starvation might, or infection, or childbirth. Yet here you are, brushing someone's fingers as you pass a hunk of roasted meat hearts fluttering like cave bats. Romance in this era is often transactional. Food for affection, protection for intimacy. But it's not purely mercenary affection blooms. Laughter is shared. Some partnerships last weeks, others years. The seeds of emotional connection are being sown. And where there are seeds, there are roots. One mainstream theory says long-term pair bonding may have helped raise helpless infants. Human babies are useless on their own big heads, no claws, all demands. So if mom and dad or mom and auntie and uncle and mom's other partner stick around, babies' chances go up. Love then begins not as passion, but as strategy. But don't get it twisted, there is passion. You see it in the stolen glances, the playful nudges, the way someone lingers when they don't have to. And when the stars wheel overhead and the fire dwindles, some sneak away together, always with a lookout posted. Because nothing ruins a midnight cuddle like a cave bear. Quirky fringe theory breaks. Some anthropologists think early humans used specific fire rituals, singing, clapping patterned movements, not just for community building, but as mating signals. Think tribal karaoke night. And if you've ever fallen for someone belting out a love ballad at 2 a.m., you know how dangerously effective that can be. There's a rhythm in your group, some flirt openly, others shyly. A few never seem interested. The ace spectrum exists even here. Maybe they bond through companionship instead. Maybe they become the keeper of stories, the watcher of stars. And so the night stretches on. The fire crackles. A shoulder brushes yours. You lean into it, or you don't. Your choice. But for early humans, these moments were precious, fleeting. You might be moving camp tomorrow, or never see them again after a hunt goes wrong. Love in this world is not a luxury. It's a thread in the tapestry of survival. Intimacy is warmth, alliance, future. In the brutal cold of prehistory, touch isn't just desire, it's life. And tonight, as you close your eyes under a canopy of stars, the glow of the dying fire still warming your toes, you feel it, that strange, ancient ache. Not hunger, not fear, something older, something still with us. You wake to the sound of sniffing. Not the cold, you've gotten used to that, but someone close inhaling. Not creepily, not like your weird coworker at the office microwave. This is different, intentional, evaluative. Your brain doesn't know why it matters, but your instincts bristle. Someone's reading you, not by sight, not by touch, but by smell. And that my smoky, fur-clad friend is where we begin tonight. The smell of desire. You roll onto your side, furs sticking to your skin, and catch it, the scent of sweat, bark, a hint of ash. Maybe even crushed herbs someone laid on your bedding last night. Not for comfort, for attraction. Turns out your ancestors were natural perfumers. Early humans often rubbed themselves with plants' animal fat, or even the crushed organs of other creatures to enhance their scent profile. Romantic depends on your feelings about fermented civet glands. Mainstream science supports it. Many animals rely heavily on scent to signal readiness to mate, and humans, though visually inclined, still carry the remnants of this olfactory legacy. Pheromones, those elusive, invisible cues, float through the air like ghostly invitations. The idea that smell could sway attraction isn't just poetic. It's chemical warfare with a wink. You sit up, stretch, and notice who's nearby. Your brain's already clocking them subconsciously. Taking in MHC compatibility, that's the major histocompatibility complex if you're fancy. Studies suggest humans are more attracted to people with differing MHC genes because genetically diverse pairings mean stronger offspring. Your nose is doing a background check your mind knows nothing about. It's like your DNA's on a blind date and you're just the chauffeur. But early humans didn't know about alleles or immune systems. What they did know was this: some people smelled right, and others, like wet mammoth. You move toward the fire pit, where someone is stirring a mush of roots and insects, breakfast of champions. The smoke is thick, but underneath it, that person's scent still hits you. Earthy, sharp, a little metallic. You try not to make it obvious, but you lean a little closer, just enough to breathe it in. Fringe theory alert. Some researchers suggest early humans might have intentionally mingled their scents by sharing bedding clothing or body paint to create a kind of primitive couple identity, like those couples who start to dress the same, except with dried lizard paste and tree sap. There's something oddly intimate about that, isn't there? You glance at the ground. Charcoal lines sketch where someone's been doodling symbols in the dirt. Abstract, maybe even ritualistic. Could these be proto-spells, attempts to capture desire through image? Historians still argue whether these marks were spiritual erotic or just someone very bored waiting for food. You can't escape the smells, not in this age. Hygiene isn't a daily ritual, it's a seasonal surprise. Baths are rare and water is often too cold or too dangerous to wade into. But that doesn't mean there's no grooming. You watch someone scraping dried sweat from their arms with a flat shell early exfoliation. Another chews a stick, brushing their teeth, Neanderthal style. Scent matters even now, especially now. Because in a world without words, scent lingers longer than memory. That person you noticed earlier, they're crouched beside you now eating. They glance sideways, nostrils flare. You're being sniffed again. But this time, you don't mind. You take it back. This is exactly like the office microwave. Let's zoom out a bit. In modern times, we drown ourselves in synthetic smells, shampoo, detergent, body spray that promises to turn you into a midnight alpha. But early humans were the original connoisseurs of funk. That musky, salty, unfiltered body scent. It wasn't hidden. It was the message. And in many cases it meant, I'm healthy, I'm fertile, I'm here. And if someone was sick, you'd know. Instantly. Even animals detect illness through scent, and humans aren't exempt. That partner who suddenly starts smelling off to you, evolution's way of saying, maybe don't. Let's get weird for a second. There's evidence that some groups may have used animal scent as a love lure, rubbing themselves in deer musk, for instance, or even rolling in animal bedding to mask their own scent, either to hide from predators or just maybe to spice things up. Imagine showing up for your big cave date smelling like freshly napped antelope. The prehistoric equivalent of spraying on your ex's cologne just to see what happens. Not everything is pheromonal poetry, though. Scent could also divide. Some early human groups probably carried distinct smell profiles based on diet, climate, and environment, which means that stranger from the next valley over exotic, foreign, maybe irresistible, or repulsive. Depends on your olfactory tolerance. There's a subtle social game at play, too. Your group might judge someone by how they smell. Too sour, suspicious. Too flowery, trying too hard. And that person who always smells like smoke and moss. Yeah, they probably have 5 admirers already. So you do your best. You chew the right leaves. You smoke your furs over sweetwood. You keep your scent strong but not desperate. Just noticeable enough to say, I'm here. I'm worth sniffing. The person beside you leans closer. Their hand brushes yours as they reach for a burnt locust. Just a flicker of contact. but it's enough. You feel the pull deeper than touch, deeper than thought. Scent isn't just physical, it's memory. And in this world where there's no photo album, no playlist of shared songs, no TikToks of your first hunt together, smell is the memory. The moment they're gone, their scent is what haunts you. Back to your own nose. It's working overtime now. You catch traces of everyone in the circle. Some familiar, some new. One smell makes you tense up, bad blood. Another calms you, a maternal figure maybe. Then there's that one, the scent that makes your pupils dilate, your body lean, your skin suddenly aware of itself. This person has been near you often lately. Coincidence maybe, or maybe they're following the same chemical trail you are. You lock eyes. The smile is subtle, shared. A quiet agreement made entirely through neurons and nostrils. Tonight, you'll lie down again. Furs tucked tight, one arm over your chest. And maybe, just maybe, you'll wake in the dark and find them beside you. Not touching. Just close enough for your scents to mingle. A silent, fragrant promise. Because long before love letters, before flirting texts, before pillow talk, there was breath, there was skin, there was scent. And sometimes, that was all it took. You hear them before you see them, bare feet slapping dirt, dry leaves crackling under heel. The rhythm is unmistakable, deliberate. Not quite a run, not quite a walk, somewhere in between. You glance up from the sharpened bone in your hand, and there they are, dancing. Not for food, not for gods, for someone. Your brain doesn't have the word courtship yet, but your body gets the message. You've seen this before, the slight bounce in the knees, the flick of hair or fur, the twirl that isn't necessary, but definitely intentional. Their eyes don't meet yours, not yet. But the performance is aimed, calculated. It's less of a show and more of a test. Tonight's theme, mating, dances, and display. And if you're not participating, you're judging. Early humans didn't invent dance for fun. They invented it for power, for attention, for sex. You shift where you sit, finding a better view. The dancer, strong, limber, covered in red ochre, circles the gathering. No music, no fire drums, just the syncopated rhythm of breath and footfall, and the occasional bark of laughter or approving grunt from the onlookers. It's not just about moves, it's about confidence, balance, symmetry, all signals of good genes, even if no one consciously thinks in alleles and offspring just yet. Mainstream theory holds that early human display behaviors evolved similarly to those in the animal kingdom, like peacocks flashing feathers or gorillas beating their chests. Except here, instead of feathers, it's scar patterns, painted skin, or the very subtle flexing of biceps while lifting logs that probably didn't need lifting. You've done it too. That time you dragged back more wood than necessary, or hunted a little louder than you had to. Not just survival performance, and you knew someone was watching. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely social or already symbolic. Was early dance a structured ritual or just spontaneous body language bravado? Either way, it worked. People watched. People followed. People coupled up. Across the clearing, another figure joins the dance, not as bold, but smoother. You recognize them from the last migration. They've been quiet, observant. But now they match the rhythm, subtly mirroring the first dancer's movements. It's not just a dance anymore. It's an invitation. And a challenge. Some chuckle. Some nudge each other. A few get up to join in. The energy builds. You feel it rising in your chest, not just admiration, but a kind of shared heartbeat. No drum, no flute, but the beat is real. And just like that, the space becomes something else. a court, a stage, a battlefield of attraction. Let's not pretend this is all poetry. You've seen the ugly side, too. Jealous glances, deliberate collisions. One dancer shoves another just a little too hard during a spin. It's disguised as play, but everyone knows the difference. In a tight-knit band of 20 or 30, competition simmers just under the surface. You don't just want to impress a partner, you want to outshine a rival. And display isn't limited to dance. Earlier today, someone killed a wild boar, not a huge one, but big enough to drag back alone. Did they need help? Absolutely. Did they refuse help to look more impressive? Also, yes. Now they sit by the fire dramatically carving the meat while maintaining the kind of eye contact that says, "This could be your dinner, if you were nice to me." You've done something similar, haven't you? Brought back an unusual shell. Painted your body with new patterns. Braided your hair differently. Not for function, for notice. The urge to be seen is older than speech. Even in the silence, the language is loud. One quirky side note in some archaeological digs: remains have been found with deliberate asymmetrical adornment, bones on one wrist, none on the other. Red ochre on just one leg. Some researchers theorize this imbalance was a deliberate signal of individuality or sexuality. Or maybe early fashion just hadn't figured itself out yet. Either way, it got attention. You glance again at the dancers. They're closer now. Their feet raise small clouds of dust, arms outstretched. The rhythm is slower now, more intimate. One leads, the other follows. A third circles them both, eyeing, calculating. Not sure if they want to join in or sabotage. Yeah, it's complicated. There's no official mate selection process. No priest, no paperwork. Just attention, repetition, and heat. If two people keep sharing food, touching, or dancing close night after night, everyone else starts to understand they've paired. Until they haven't. It's fluid, flexible, and very, very public. At one point, someone near you scoffs. Too much stomping, they mutter. Another snorts. Look at his knees, weak knees. You stifle a laugh. You're not supposed to comment, but everyone does. Quiet critiques, subtle sabotage. If flirting is a dance, then gossip is the chorus. In some groups, elders might step in, nudging pairings, teasing likely matches. Especially when two people clearly like each other, but neither makes the move. Nothing's more universal than just kiss already. You've had your turn too. Last migration, you and someone else began exchanging food scraps. Then you both started arriving late to camp, always together. Then came the dance. One night in the glow of the fire, you stepped forward, opened your arms, and let your body speak. They followed, and everyone knew. Of course, sometimes displays misfire. One guy last season tried to win someone over by bringing back a stack of painted rocks. Heavy ones. Beautiful, sure, but impractical. They just rolled their eyes and used the biggest one to squash a beetle. Brutal. But hey, effort counts. Back to the present. The dancers are slowing, panting, sweat glistening under ochre and dirt. One peels away. The other watches, hesitating. Then follows. A soft ripple goes through the group, unspoken but understood. You see someone watching you now. Not dancing, just watching. Their expression is unreadable, curious, maybe impressed, maybe nothing. But you feel it anyway. And tomorrow you'll wake early. Clean the gunk from your face. Find a nice shell. Maybe carry firewood you didn't really need to carry. Not for survival, for notice. Because long before roses, before club nights, before DMs and dating apps, love started with a stomp, a glance, a dance. and the hope that anyone was watching. You grip the hunk of meat tighter than you mean to. It's not about hunger you've already eaten, but you're holding it with intention, because you're about to give it away. And in your world, that's a loaded move. Across the clearing, the person you've been watching all morning sits sharpening a flint blade. Quiet, focused, the muscles in their arms moving like a rhythm only you can hear. You get up, brush the dust from your legs, and head toward them with a mix of confidence and absolute stomach-churning uncertainty. Because when you offer food to someone in this world, it isn't just generosity. It's affection. It's strategy. It might even be love. Welcome to the very romantic tradition of sharing meat. Mainstream anthropologists agree among early humans, food was currency. And not just for calories. It carried meaning. When you handed someone a prized portion of fatty meat, you weren't just feeding them, you were signaling interest, trust, or alliance. Sometimes all three. You hold out the meat. Say nothing. Just let it hover between you two like an offering, like a question. They pause, glance at you, then take it. Your pulse jumps. In modern life, you might send a text, a meme, a photo of your lunch. In Paleolithic times, you gave your lunch. That's how signals were sent. In a world where survival is never guaranteed, calories are commitment. There's something ritualistic about it, even if no one would call it that. You see it all the time. Someone breaks open a charred limb of boar, and instead of wolfing it down, they look around, searching for someone in particular. A nod, a silent beckon. The chosen one gets the softest part of the marrow. No words exchanged. Everyone notices, even if they pretend not to. Historians still argue whether these exchanges were acts of personal preference or tactical moves for mating. Was it love, lust, a bid for support in an upcoming conflict? The answer's probably yes. You sit down beside them now casually. They chew. No thanks, no smile. But they didn't refuse it either. That's basically a standing ovation. And now, of course, comes the reciprocity test. A few moments pass. Then they nudge a bit of the meat back your way. Equal share, equal respect. You try not to grin like a fool. Let's rewind a bit. Picture a world where food doesn't come from shelves or apps. It comes from the dirt, the hunt, the bones of something you probably stabbed with a sharp stick. Meat is precious, scarce, hard-won, which makes it romantic in the weirdest way possible. There's evidence from archaeological sites, scattered bones, specific burn patterns, that meat was often distributed unevenly, not randomly, strategically. The best cuts went to favored individuals, elders, hunters, or someone you were trying to impress. Remember that scene from earlier, where someone dragged back a wild boar on their own? Well, how they hand out the pieces after matters almost as much as the kill itself. Did they toss scraps, hand them directly, offer them with a little too much eye contact? You were watching. Everyone was. In some tribes, meat-giving is practically a mating call. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, modern-day hunter-gatherers with ancient roots, men's reputation and desirability are often tied to how much meat they bring back and how they share it. It's not about hoarding. It's about proving you're generous, that you're capable, that you'll provide not just for yourself, but for others. So yeah, sharing a roasted haunch is basically the Paleolithic version of posting a gym selfie with a dog. And the caption, "Just doing my part." Quirky fact time: in certain early societies, the act of giving food, especially meat, was sometimes believed to transfer spiritual energy. The giver didn't just offer flesh, but force, a fragment of their own vitality, which means that offering someone meat wasn't just flirting. It was surrendering a bit of yourself. Heavy stuff, especially when the meat is still warm. You remember a story told by the elder, more wheeze than words really, about two people who kept giving each other food back and forth until they didn't even eat anymore. They just exchanged. It became something else entirely. No one knew if they were mates or just weirdly obsessed with each other. Maybe both. You like that story. It feels familiar. Now a twist. Not all gifts go well. Someone once brought back a chunk of honeycomb, a rare, precious thing, and handed it to someone across the camp. Smiles, gasps, impressive. Until that person broke off a piece and handed it to someone else. Awkward silence. So much shade you'd think a cloud passed over. Because food is never just food. Sometimes it's a triangle. Sometimes it's revenge. You snap out of your memory when the person beside you reaches for their pouch and pulls out a cluster of berries, carefully picked. They offer you half. You don't even like berries, but you eat them. Because the rules are simple. They shared meat. You shared meat. They shared berries. Now you're officially emotionally compromised. Your group is small, but the networks of gifting run deep. You can map attraction by watching the flow of food, who saves the good bits, who forgets to offer someone a share, who gets fed when they're not even hungry. It's not loud, it's not grand, it's constant, and that's what makes it real. Later, when the sun dips low and the fire starts again, you'll sit near them. Not next to, not yet. Just near enough for scent and warmth to mix again. Maybe you'll hand them a charred locust. Maybe they'll press a piece of fruit into your palm. And someone across the circle will notice and smirk because they know. We all know. Love used to be loud, messy, sung by birds, shouted by monkeys. But for humans, it whispered through the crackle of fat over flame. It moved in the tender passing of a shared bone. It bloomed quietly in the simple question asked with meat, will you eat what I offer? Will you stay full with me? You wake up stiff, sore, with a foot in your ribs that isn't yours. Welcome to communal sleeping the Paleolithic way. Bodies tangled like driftwood, breath warm in the cold air, and zero personal space. But as you roll away, stretch and untangle yourself from a stranger's elbow, something hits you. They're not here. The one you've been sharing food with. The one who smelled like smoke and crushed mint leaves. Gone. You sit up, scan the clearing. Heart doing that weird little thud it does when someone's absence is louder than their presence. This is the start of a very old story, monogamy. Sort of. Because you might feel something that looks like love. You might act on it. But are you together permanently? In this world, that's a complicated question. You rise, stretch your back, and begin to think through your options. Do you ask someone where they went? Do you pretend not to care? Or do you play it cool, wait by the fire, and see if they come back with meat or berries, or a look in their eyes that says, I was thinking about you. Early humans didn't have marriage certificates. They didn't exchange rings or post selfies with #soulmate in the caption. But what they did have was proximity, repetition, and choice. You pair up because you keep pairing up. Because you keep ending up beside each other night after night, meal after meal. Still, historians argue whether true monogamy existed in these early societies. Was it just a seasonal convenience, a parental strategy, or something deeper? You remember last season. Two people always together. One of them was injured in a fall, leg snapped like a dry twig. Everyone expected the other to move on. Too risky, too weak. But they stayed, carried them, fed them, even slept farther from the fire to keep the others warm. Was that monogamy or just human? Let's break it down. Mainstream theory says humans are mildly polygynous. Translation: one man with multiple partners isn't uncommon in many societies, but neither is pair bonding. Unlike, say, gorillas who go full harem mode, humans tend to form couples even if those couples sometimes stray, or collapse, or shift. You think about the elders' whispers, stories of mates who drifted, of others who snuck off in the dark. Love isn't static. It moves with the seasons, with the hunts, with the heart. But something makes people try. That pull to connect, to choose. Even if the choosing happens over and over again, you're not alone in this. The other day, you watched a young pair argue, nothing verbal, just posture and scowls and someone refusing to eat. Then later that night, one returned with a woven belt made from rivergrass and placed it silently beside the other's sleeping mat. They didn't talk. But the next morning, they were walking together again. Fringe theory incoming. Some scholars believe early humans used symbolic items, not just food or touch, to maintain bonds. A carved bone, a stone dyed red. Little tokens exchanged quietly that meant, "You're mine still," or "I'm thinking of you," or "Sorry, I threw that bone at you last night." You head to the fire. Still no sign of them. You poke the embers absently. The older woman beside you notices and hums softly, then mutters, "They went to gather roots, took the long trail." You nod. Try not to look too relieved, but you sit straighter, because that matters. They went alone, no one else. You've seen what it looks like when someone's not yours anymore. When they go off with another. The tension, the glances, the quiet performances around the fire trying to act like it's fine. It's not. You know the feeling. You've been on both ends. Let's talk cheating. Yes, it existed. Long before text messages and lipstick on collars, there were hushed footsteps, long absences, and the subtle shift of who shares what, meet with whom. Some groups didn't seem to mind. Sex was fluid connection, communal children raised by many. But others, they noticed. They whispered. Sometimes they punished. Jealousy, it seems, is older than fire. But it's not just about mating. It's about belonging. You see them now returning. A woven satchel slung over one shoulder, bits of root and bark sticking out. Dirt-smudged eyes squinting in the light. They see you. You pretend not to see them see you. Then they toss the satchel at your feet. You sort these, they say, barely a glance. Your heart does that thing again. Because it means I brought this for you. Or at least you're still worth annoying. Same thing, really. Let's talk about kids for a second. Because this is where things get even messier. When bonds form, real ones, they tend to last through children. Not always, but often. And that kind of commitment, that's survival gold. Babies in this world are basically loud, needy paperweights, useless alone. Raising one takes more than one set of hands. So when someone stays with a partner after the baby comes, keeps hunting, feeding, protecting, that's not just affection. That's strategy. And yet, it's also affection. Because you've seen the way some of them look at each other across the chaos of camp, the glance over a crying infant, the shared smirk when a toddler smears charcoal on someone's thigh. That's love. Messy, inconvenient, smoky, raw love. Quirky fact of the night. Some ancient burial sites show adult pairs buried together face to face. In some cases, they died at the same time. Maybe a sickness. Maybe a raid. Maybe they chose to go out together. No one knows for sure. But even in death, they stayed side by side. Not a bad ending, honestly. And as the fire crackles and the satchel sits between your feet, you begin sorting the roots like they asked. Not because you have to, because you want to. Because even though this isn't marriage and you have no ring, and there's no priest, and no one even knows what a honeymoon is, you're here. And they're here. And for now, that's enough. Monogamy, sort of. But whatever it is, it's yours. There's a crack, sharp, sudden, not like a branch snapping underfoot, more like bone. You look up just in time to see the two men grappling near the fire, muscles straining, teeth bared. One is younger, lean, but fast. The other is bulkier, breathing hard. Around them, others step back, not to stop it, to watch. Because this isn't just a fight. It's jealousy with clubs. You freeze, half standing, unsure whether to intervene. But you don't. No one does. This is how some arguments get settled out here. Not over words or memes or passive-aggressive silence, but through fists, snarls, and when available, a nicely carved club. This isn't about meat. This is about someone. Because last night you saw the lean one sneak off into the tall grass, and she followed. And now, well, welcome to one of humanity's oldest traditions, mate guarding. Mainstream anthropologists will tell you this kind of behavior is baked into our biology. In many species, especially among mammals, males compete sometimes violently for access to females. With humans, it's more complicated, sure. But at its roots, still the same drive. Protect the bond. Eliminate the threat. You've felt it too. That quick sting of heat in your chest when you see someone laughing a little too loud at someone else's joke. When the person you slept next to last week suddenly spends all day pounding roots with someone who definitely doesn't usually help pound roots. You don't talk about it, not directly, but your eyes talk, your posture talks, your silence talks, and sometimes your fists talk. Historians still argue whether early humans were more peaceful or violent overall, but jealousy, that's not up for debate. It's carved into bone, sometimes literally ancient skulls showing trauma that's suspiciously non-accidental. A bash here, a dent there, all just because someone looked a little too long at someone else's partner. One of the fighters lunges. The other stumbles back, trips over a log, falls hard. The crowd shifts, not cheering, not stopping it, just letting it run its course. Because this is social. This is public. This is courtship by combat. Fringe theory incoming. Some researchers believe that early love triangles helped shape complex social dynamics. Not just in terms of mating, but alliances, rivalries, hierarchies. That a single stolen glance could ripple out into shifts in status, power, and even leadership. Think high school, but with spears. You glance around. The woman at the center of all this, sitting calmly, watching, hands on her knees, expression unreadable. She isn't property, she isn't prize, she's witness. And that matters, because unlike other species where males simply fight for access, humans have a twist she chooses. Eventually. You remember last season, two people got into it, knives drawn, blood spilled. But the woman they were fighting over, she didn't pick either of them. She left. Joined another group. Took her skills, her laughter, her fire-making magic, and went. Iconic behavior. But tonight, this one stays. And after the fight ends, bloodied lips, bruised ribs, but nothing fatal, she stands. Walks past the loser, goes to the winner, doesn't touch him. Just sits beside him. You swear you hear someone mutter, "Oof, let's talk strategy." Mate guarding isn't just about fighting. It's also about presence. You stick close. You insert yourself into conversations. You volunteer to help carry things you wouldn't normally touch. You show up. You notice someone doing that now. Not for you, but around you. They're circling. Friendly, but just a bit too friendly. You know what this is? The slow-motion collision of social proximity and sexual tension. You've been the circler before. You've been the circled. You've even been the prize, though, only once, and you got a sprained ankle and 3 bruises out of it. Worth it. Let's zoom in on the emotional side. Because jealousy isn't just about possession. It's about fear. Fear of losing something. Or someone. In a world this uncertain, where food safety and warmth are never guaranteed, love becomes a kind of anchor. A thing that makes the chaos feel less chaotic. So when someone threatens that you snap. Jealousy is also performative. You've seen people fake interest in others just to get a reaction. You've seen pouting, the silent treatment. You once saw someone throw an entire skewer of roasted locusts into the river after being ignored. Drama, yes. Effective, also yes. Quirky fact of the night: some primates like bonobos use sex as conflict resolution. Jealousy flares, boom, recreational bonding. Early humans may not have had the same frequency, but the idea of sex as a balm, a fixer, a rebonder, that's been around. You see it play out tonight. After the fight, after the crowd disperses, the victorious one limps away. She follows, quietly, no fanfare. But the next morning they return together, sharing food, not speaking, but close, too close to ignore. That's how you know it's real. And so the social map shifts. Everyone recalibrates. And you think about what you'd do. If someone started sniffing around your not-quite partner, if someone danced a little too close or shared their meat with them, or sat beside them at the fire and leaned, you like to think you'd stay cool, rational, above it. But you've also sharpened your spear more times than necessary lately, just in case. Because love in this world is wild. It's messy. It's sweet and soft and smoke-scented and warm under furs. But it's also sharp, fast, explosive. And sometimes it comes with a club. The cave is crowded tonight. Not with people, though they're here tangled in furs and sleep, but with breath. Heavy shared, warm in the chill. Every exhale curls like smoke in the air, then fades. You lie on your side, pressed between 2 bodies, neither of which you particularly like. But there's no room for preference. Not when it's 20,000 BCE and you live in a cave. Privacy myth. Personal space. A modern fantasy. Alone time. Not unless you count peeing behind a tree while a cousin stands watch for hyenas. And yet somehow early humans still found ways to make it work. Welcome to the art of caves, privacy, and quickies. You shift quietly, trying not to disturb the snoring elder beside you, whose breath smells like fermented tubers and regret. On your other side, someone's arm is slung over your waist purely for warmth. Or is it? You don't look, because that's the thing here: boundaries blur when everyone sleeps like firewood in a pile. You're always touching someone, always hearing someone, always aware. And still, sometimes 2 people disappear. Sometimes it's you. Let's set the scene. You live with maybe 20 people, maybe 30. Some related, some not. You know them intimately: how they walk, how they laugh, how they cry when they think no one notices. Every sound, every scent, every twitch of movement becomes familiar, predictable, which means when someone isn't where they usually are, you notice, and so does everyone else. Historians still argue whether early humans valued privacy in the way we understand it today. After all, many animals mate out in the open, and communal living often means communal everything. But humans are weird, shy and bold in equal measure, prone to sneaking off, to stolen moments, especially when they're in love, or in lust, or just bored. You've seen it happen: a glance exchanged, a hand brushed accidentally, and then later 2 people missing from the fire circle. No announcement, no shame, just a gap in the group that silently fills with speculation. Quirky fact time. Some caves contain small alcoves, tight, echoless spaces that may have offered moments of solitude, whether for prayer, rest, or other things we can't say. But traces of ochre feather fragments and smooth worn stones suggest those little side pockets saw plenty of traffic. You once snuck off to one, just to think. Ended up not alone. Didn't hate it. But let's get real. There's no Netflix and chill here. No scented candles, no bedroom doors. There's furs on stone, maybe a carved wall to lean against, and the sound of someone coughing 20 feet away. Sexy, right? Which is why most encounters are fast, efficient, whispered, maybe giggled through if you're lucky. The phrase "quickie" is generous. In this world, you're always one twig snap away from a predator or a nosy elder. So you get good at speed, at silence, at choosing the right moment when no one's watching or when they're pretending not to. And oh, they pretend. You've done it too, staring into the fire while 2 people sneak off acting like you don't see it. Everyone plays the game. Everyone respects the unspoken rule. If they're gone for 10 minutes, don't mention it. If it's more than 20, make a joke. More than an hour, hope they're not dead. You once heard someone say they must be gathering bark, with a wink. No bark returned, of course. Let's talk logistics. Night is best. People sleep. The fire's low. Shadows move naturally. The cold keeps folks bundled and quiet. That's when most sneaking happens. But daytime works too, especially during long migrations or when the group splits to forage. You remember one such moment vividly. A stream, a cluster of rocks, hands stained with berries. You weren't even planning anything. But then they leaned in, smelled like cedar and sweat. You looked around, no eyes on you, so you stepped behind a tree. 2 minutes later, you were back like nothing happened, except everything had. One mainstream theory says these fleeting secretive moments weren't just for pleasure. They served social function, testing bonds, diffusing tension, forming alliances. Quickies weren't just hormonal detours. They were data points, signals. Who's into who isn't, who's moving on. You've seen it spark jealousy. Someone returns too flushed, too happy. Another tightens their jaw. Later, there's a chance meeting by the fire. An overly enthusiastic meet offer. The social chess game begins anew. Sometimes it's pure rebellion. A younger member pairing up with someone forbidden. Not technically outlawed, nothing's that formal here, but frowned upon. Maybe they're from another clan. Maybe they're already half-paired. Maybe they're just supposed to be focused on important things. But bodies are bodies. And humans always curious. Even the elders, yes, especially the elders, have stories. You once heard one mutter about a time they rolled in pine needles with someone during a thunderstorm. Their grin said it all. You learned from them. Not just the stories, but the habits, the rhythms. When to go, where to go, how to go unnoticed. It's an inherited art. Privacy in this world is a skill, one you master or miss. There's a new pair tonight. You can tell. They're not touching, not even talking, but they're tuned to each other's bodies, leaning slightly, movements in sync. You clock it. Others do too. No one says anything. But when they both rise for water, everyone knows. And you think about your own moments. Some secret, some public, some not even about sex, just closeness. A hand held behind a rock, a breath shared during a rainstorm, a nap shoulder to shoulder, pretending you didn't mean to lean in. Those are the ones that linger, the quiet ones. Because even in a world of open fires and loud grunts and no walls whatsoever, humans found ways to be private, to slip through cracks in the social floor, to carve space in stone for something tender, even if just for a heartbeat. And later, when you lie down again, wedged between two snorers, a knee in your back, your face inches from the wall, you think about escape, about someone's hand brushing yours under the furs, about a small cave, a warm breath, and 10 minutes no one will ever speak of again. Because love in this world, it's fast, it's hidden, it's real. And sometimes it fits in the space between two heartbeats and the flicker of a flame. You're gathering wood when you hear it laughter. Not the kind that follows a joke. Not the kind that says, "Oops, I stepped in dung." No, this is sharp, unfriendly. It ends with silence that's somehow louder than the noise itself. You glance up. 3 people are clustered near the firearms, crossed eyes, locked on a figure across the clearing. A figure who's not laughing, who's sitting very still, facing the other way, pretending not to hear. You know what this is? It's love. Well, it's complicated. Tonight, you're witnessing the prehistoric birth of drama, Stone Age. It's complicated. The tangled, thorny bramble of love triangles, passive-aggressive, gift-giving, awkward social tension, and the devastating sting of being the one not chosen. You've been there. Everyone has. Because while love in the Paleolithic may be instinctual, rooted in survival, driven by scent, framed by biology, it's also deeply human. And humans, even without words, find ways to create chaos. You approach the fire slowly, the tensions still thick, like the air before a storm. One of the 3 older, flinty-eyed, turns to you and mutters she thinks she's the only one who can sit next to him now. Ah, so that's today's drama. You sit down carefully, neutral, not too close to anyone, not too far, just enough to hear, not enough to be blamed for anything. It's a skill. The object of all this, sitting by the edge of camp, sharpening a stone. Focused, quiet, but their posture is loud. I don't care, which always means I care deeply, and I'm dying inside. Let's rewind. 3 moons ago, they were with someone else. Everyone knew it. Shared food, shared warmth, shared smirks. It was cute. Then, someone new joined the group, brought from another band. Young, interesting, different. And suddenly, alliances shifted. Eyes wandered. Meat changed hands. And now it's a mess. Mainstream historical thinking acknowledges that early human relationships were flexible, sometimes fluid, but that doesn't mean they were painless. Pair bonds may not have been permanent, but that didn't stop people from getting attached or from getting hurt. Fringe theory time, some researchers argue that emotional jealousy evolved not from possessiveness, but from fear of loss of support. In a tight-knit group, losing a partner wasn't just about romance. It meant less food, less protection, fewer allies. So when someone strayed, the fallout rippled through every layer of life. And here it's rippling hard. One of the 3 by the fire gets up and marches toward the one sitting alone. They don't speak. They just stand. a little too close, hovering. Everyone pretends not to notice. You stir the fire, very interested in this one burning stick, but your ears wide open. The two talk low, tense. You catch a few words, not full language, not yet. But enough. Gone. Alone, no. Oh, that's enough to make your stomach flip. Eventually, the standing one walks away. The seated one stays put. You glance at another person across the circle. Their eyes meet yours for a second. Yeah, everyone knows. And tomorrow's going to be awkward. Let's talk about breaking up Paleolithic edition. There's no official status here. No declarations. No public "we're done" speeches. But the signals are loud. A shift in who sits with who. A sudden silence. An intentional non-sharing of food. Brutal. You remember the first time someone pulled that on you. You'd been paired loosely with someone for almost a season. It was comfortable. It was good. Then one day you offered them the good part of a roasted bird, and they passed it to someone else. Your stomach fell like a rock into a cold stream. That night you didn't sleep beside anyone. Not because there was no one, but because you couldn't. That's how it happens here. Quietly, devastatingly, and everyone watches. Of course, some people don't take it so passively. You've seen revenge flirting, obvious, loud, often hilarious. You've seen people strut around with their new partners like cats dragging a half-dead mouse to your bed. You've seen someone paint themselves from neck to knee in red ochre and straddle a rock while making very suggestive carvings loudly. Subtlety isn't always the go-to strategy. Tonight you see it happening. The newcomer, the one at the center of the current storm, has just appeared with a handful of bright berries. Not for the jilted one. Oh no. For someone completely unrelated to the drama. A side character. A background extra. Until now. They laugh. Accept the gift. Everyone hears it. And the one sitting alone doesn't flinch. But their sharpening gets much louder. You sigh. Love isn't supposed to be a competition. But it is. Always has been. Not just for affection, but for position, power, security. Being chosen means more than just cuddles. It means someone to carry wood with, someone to defend you in an argument, someone who'll stand between you and a saber-toothed cat if things get dicey. So yeah, people fight for it. You've even done it once when someone you liked started drifting away. You didn't confront them. You just made yourself visible. Started sharing your kills again. Sat beside them with accidental touches. Pulled out the old bone flute and played your best tunes. They came back. For a while. Then left again. You survived. That's the thing. In this world, no one owns anyone. Bonds are chosen constantly. Renewed, revoked, renegotiated. It's exhausting, but it's real. Quirky fact of the night. There's evidence that some ancient tribes practiced formalized polyamory, non-exclusive relationships, built on cooperation rather than competition. But even in those emotional hierarchies formed, favorites emerged. And where there are favorites, there's tension. Later, as the group prepares for sleep, the tension's still hanging in the air. Someone says something sharp. Someone else laughs too hard. The newcomer stretches a little too provocatively, and the one who was left behind, they roll up in their furs alone, but not before looking at you. Just for a second. Not a question, not a plea, just a look that says, "Don't forget I'm still here." And you won't. Because love in this world isn't clean. It's not tidy or fair or symmetrical. It's jagged, messy, layered with smoke, silence, and so many unspoken things it could bury a mammoth. But even in the chaos, you still want it. You still try, even when it's complicated, especially when it is. You don't hear her approach. You feel her before the whisper of her breath, before the rustle of her furs, before the soft thump of her satchel beside yours. It's the way the conversation around the fire changes, the subtle hush, the way people straighten up or suddenly look very interested in their berry pulp. Because she's arrived, the matriarch. And when she speaks, people listen even if they pretend not to, even if they grumble later or roll their eyes when her back is turned. Because in this world of smoke and bones and short lives, the elders are the ones who carry the map. And she holds the pen. Tonight, you're witnessing one of the oldest, strangest forces in human love. Mothers, matriarchs, and matchmaking. You shift slightly to make room even though she doesn't need it. Her eyes flick toward you, unreadable, then back to the fire. She has that look, the one that says she's thinking 6 moves ahead, and none of them are your business. Mainstream anthropologists agree, elder women in early human tribes often held significant social power. They knew who was fertile, who was strong, who brought back food reliably, and who conveniently lost everything to hyenas. They remembered past seasons, who shared well, who wandered, and they watched. They always watched. You glance around and realize she's not alone. 2 other older women have joined, settling near her like stars around a moon. One starts humming a low rhythmic tune you've heard before. Not a song, a signal. Across the fire, someone young looks up, alarmed. Uh-oh, someone's about to be nudged. Historians still argue whether early matchmaking was formalized, if these elders made actual pairing decisions, or just meddled through gossip and suggestion. But from where you sit, it's obvious this is power wielded softly, socially, and absolutely. Last migration, you saw her do it. A young man barely past his first kill kept mooning after someone already paired up. Wouldn't let it go. Kept bringing gifts, hovering, always accidentally ending up beside them during chores. She'd had enough. One night she pulled him aside, whispered something. No one heard. The next day he was sitting beside a different person and smiling. 2 days later, mated. 3 moons after that baby. She doesn't force anything. She just aligns things, suggests, guides, like gravity. Tonight her gaze settles on you, just for a second. You suddenly forget how to hold your hands. Because when a matriarch looks at you like that, it means one of 3 things. You're not pulling your weight. You're about to be encouraged to look elsewhere. You're about to be paired. You clear your throat, glance at your satchel, consider fake foraging just to escape. Too late. She speaks. Too many nights alone, You don't answer. No one does when she opens with a question like that. She's not asking. She's declaring. The younger members snicker, but not loudly. She continues. Used to be, if someone wanted to sit with another, they just sat. Now everyone's so careful, afraid of glances, afraid of furs. Someone jokes, maybe they just have bad breath. She snaps back, then chew mint leaves. I'm tired of the moon playing matchmaker while we all sit here pretending we don't notice. Laughter. Nervous. But real. You glance sideways. And yep, the person you've kind of maybe been thinking about. They're also looking at her, not at you, but close enough. She notices, of course. She notices everything, and just like that, she starts humming a different tune. Lower, slower. A rhythm that means now. Not everyone understands it. Not everyone needs to. But some do. The person across the fire stands, stretches, walks around the circle, sits beside you. Your breath catches, but you keep your face neutral. The matriarch hums louder. Someone chuckles. No one says a word. Because this is how it happens now. She doesn't make the matches. She makes the room for them. Fringe theory break. Some anthropologists suggest that elder women, especially post-menopausal ones, played a huge role in group cohesion. No longer caught up in child-rearing or pair bonding themselves, they became the cultural memory, the regulators of tension, the architects of affection. In other words, grandma was Cupid, but also executioner. You once saw her dissolve a pair with 3 words. He's not ready, that was it. The relationship evaporated. Because when she says it, it must be true. You wonder what she'd say about you. You've been cautious, maybe too cautious. You've let connections drift, avoided the hard glances, the pointed offers of shared food. You've played safe. Now someone's sitting beside you, not touching, but close enough, and she's humming. Which means you have a choice, not an order, not yet, a choice. You lean ever so slightly toward them. They lean back. The hum stops. The matriarch closes her eyes, satisfied. Quirky detail of the night. Some early societies buried matriarchs with tokens from couples they'd paired, bits of carved bone, painted shells, even worn furs, as if thanking them for every nudge, every eye roll, every perfectly timed cough. Because yes, it's love, but it's also social engineering. And sometimes you need a little push. You sit there a while, you and them, side by side. The fire warm, the silence not uncomfortable. You hear the older woman murmur to one of the others, "See, easy." You want to laugh, but you don't, because you're still pretending this is casual, even though it's not. Not anymore. Because tonight, someone sat beside you, and someone else let it happen. That's how love works here. Not just through longing and luck, but through whispers and nudges, and mothers who absolutely know what they're doing. You don't say anything, not at first. They're still sitting beside you, close but not touching, and both of you are doing an extremely convincing job of staring into the fire like it's the most fascinating thing you've ever seen. Like your entire soul has been ignited by the flickering of charred wood. But inside, every nerve is buzzing. You're wondering, should I say something? Should I do something? Should I just lean? And they're wondering the same thing. This is how it happens. Not through words, because language isn't fully built yet. No vowels to hide behind. No poetic confessions. No DMs at 3 a.m. with just the word, "Hey." Instead, it's all in the body. Tonight you're going to explore how early humans told each other "I like you" without using any actual words. Welcome to the sweet, strange world of love languages before language. You glance sideways. They're not looking at you, but their shoulder has shifted. Their foot, once politely angled away, now points toward yours. Their whole posture says, "I'm here for this." And yours leaning, subtle, but definitely leaning. In modern terms, we call it body language. Back then, it was the language. Mainstream science supports it. Long before speech, early humans communicated through gesture, gaze, movement, and touch. These weren't just signals, they were survival tools. And in the realm of affection, they became the blueprint for connection. You remember watching a young pair last migration. No conversation, no gifts, just a series of deliberate postures, shoulder touches, while foraging, synchronized walking, one mimicking the other's stretch beside the fire. It looked like nothing. But by the third night, they were sleeping in the same furs. Historians still argue whether mimicry in early human courtship was conscious or instinctual. Did they mean to copy each other's movements, or did it just happen? Either way, it works. People trust what they recognize. And mirroring someone's body is like whispering, "I understand you," without making a sound. You try it now. They scratch their wrist. A moment later, so do you. They notice and smile. Boom. Flirtation unlocked. Fringe theory break. Some anthropologists believe gift-giving as love language may have begun with the offering of random, non-essential objects. A shiny rock, a feather, a beetle shell. Items that served no practical use but carried aesthetic or symbolic value. The original, I saw this and thought of you. Sound familiar? You reach into your satchel fingers, brushing against the cool, curved edge of a shell you picked up earlier. Smooth pink, useless, but beautiful. You take it out and gently set it on the ground between you. They look at it, then at you, then back at the shell. They don't say thank you. There's no word for it yet. But they brush their hand over it, slow and deliberate, before nudging it closer to their side of the fire. Accepted. You breathe again. Touch, of course, is the loudest signal of all. In a world with no doors, no privacy, no spoken nuance, a simple touch can split your reality in half. A brush of fingers, a bump of knees, a shoulder leaned just a little too long. Touch is the story. And now here beside the fire, they shift again. Let their hand rest between you. Not touching, but available. An invitation. You don't move right away, because this is the dance. The nervous flickering at the edge of something real. And in this world, where danger is constant, where life is short, where nothing is promised, this slow-building tension is its own kind of safety. You reach out, fingers meet, just barely. Warm skin, dry from the sun, a callus on their thumb. You trace it with your own slowly, then let your hand settle gently into theirs. And there it is. Your first real conversation. No words, but full sentences. Let's talk about facial expressions. Another love language older than words. Raised brows, curiosity. Tilted head, interest. Biting the inside of your cheek while glancing at someone that transcends time, apparently. You've spent weeks learning their expressions, how their nose scrunches when they're lying, the smirk that means they're pretending not to notice you, the side glance they give before they make a move. You know these things. And tonight you start using them. A smile not big, not performative, just enough to say yes. They smile back, and suddenly everything is quiet. The fire, the people, the coughing elder, even the rustling wind. All background to this one shared breathless stillness between you. A story happening in real time, told only through glances and gravity. Quirky fact of the night, in some modern hunter-gatherer societies, new couples don't speak to each other for days or even weeks after pairing up. Not out of coldness, but as a kind of respect. The idea is that the bond is stronger than words, that closeness speaks louder. You feel that now. You're not talking. But this moment, deafening. Eventually, they let go of your hand, only to stand, stretch, and brush a bit of dust from your shoulder. A casual excuse for another touch. You shiver slightly, not from cold. They smile again and wander off into the dusk, not disappearing, just stepping away. You stay seated, heart doing somersaults, eyes on the shell you gave them now tucked carefully into their belt. Language didn't build this. Words didn't create this. You made it happen through motion, mimicry, touch, silence, and offering. And tomorrow you'll do it again. Because love doesn't begin with declarations. It begins with eyes that linger a little too long, with matching footsteps, with a shell placed gently in the firelight, and a hand that says yes, even when no one says a thing. You didn't expect to feel this hollow. It's a dull thing, not sharp, not immediate. It seeps into you slowly like water into dry earth. You still go through the motions. You still collect wood. You still chew roots. You still laugh when someone burns their fingers on the hot stone. But the spot beside you at the fire is empty. And it's been empty for days. So yeah. This is your first real breakup. The Paleolithic version anyway. Tonight we're sitting in the ashes of early love stories. The heartbreaks, the ghostings, the emotional fallout in a world without therapy, Adele songs, or even a good blanket to scream into. Welcome to the first breakups. It happened without warning. One day they were beside you, touching your hand under furs, sharing the best part of the hunt, smiling with their eyes like only you could see it. And the next, gone. Not eaten by a predator, gone. Not wandered off on a solo spirit quest, gone. Just no longer showing up beside you, sitting somewhere else, sharing food with someone else. You'd almost prefer the predator. Let's be real, breakups didn't require modern civilization. The moment humans could form emotional attachments, we also unlocked the ability to lose them. Mainstream anthropologists believe the roots of romantic disappointment go back as far as bonding itself. Emotional pairing is evolution's gamble. You invest time, energy, affection, and in return, you might get cooperation, protection, or offspring. But when the bond breaks, you lose more than a person. You lose safety, familiarity, face. Because yeah, everyone knows. And no one's pretending not to. The group has already recalibrated. Some people are suddenly more friendly to you. Others avoid eye contact like you carry heartbreak like a disease. And your ex, they're still in the group, of course. You don't just move out in a hunter-gatherer band. You stay close. Too close. You're sharing a fire with your ghost. You catch glimpses, see them pass meat to someone new, hear them laugh a little louder than usual, a little performative, a little cruel. Or maybe that's just your brain filling in the blanks. You don't know anymore. What you do know is that you're in the Paleolithic version of a soft block, and it hurts. You're not eating much. You're sleeping curled tighter than usual, alone on the edge of the sleeping area. No one says anything, but they notice. Even the elders, especially the matriarch. She hums a new tune now, not for pairing, for grieving. Historians still argue whether early humans conceptualized emotional grief over romantic loss the way we do. Was it love, or was it disrupted routine? Did they feel heartbreak or just confusion at the shift in scent and sound, in warmth? But from where you sit, cold, hungry, tired, you can tell this isn't just confusion. It's grief. Fringe theory, break. There's speculation that some early rituals around fire and smoke, sitting in silence, rubbing ash on the face, or refusing food may have emerged from emotional pain as much as from spiritual practice. Early morning, not for death, for change. You understand that now. You scrape ashes onto your fingertips, rub them over your knuckles. No one stops you. No one mocks you. they know. Across the fire, someone throws a glance your way. It's brief, but it lingers. A cousin. A friend. Someone who once told a joke that made you snort like a piglet. Maybe, but not tonight. Tonight is for sitting in it. You remember the moment it shifted, the night they pulled away when you reached out, the awkward silence, the absence of touch, and the worst part, they didn't explain. They didn't need to. Language isn't there yet. Not enough words to justify or soothe. Just absence. Just decisions made in posture, in who sits where, in who shares what. You wonder, was it your fault? Did you not bring enough food? Were you too quiet? Too slow on the last migration? Did they smell something in someone else that they stopped smelling in you? There are no answers. Only patterns. And you start to notice them in others. The way two people who used to be close now sit apart. How someone returns from a hunt alone, avoids everyone, and sleeps early. How laughter can curdle into silence in just a single glance. Breakups are as communal as pairings. No one dates in secret here. So no one undates in secret either. And everyone handles it differently. Some distract themselves, hunt harder, louder, overcompensate. Others retreat. You've chosen retreat. For now. Until tonight. Tonight you feel a small shift. Someone brings you a burnt root. Nothing fancy, just food. But it's handed to you, not to the group. That matters. It's not a come on. It's a kindness. A reminder you are still part of this. Still human. Still wanted. Quirky detail of the night. In some burial sites, lone individuals have been found with trinkets or gifts placed beside them unmatched to any known partner. Maybe offerings from former lovers. Maybe from new ones. Maybe just someone who didn't want them to be alone even in death. You hold the root, bite into it, chew slowly. It tastes like ash, like earth, like new beginnings. You feel their gaze on you again, the one who handed it to you. You glance up. They don't look away. And maybe tomorrow you'll sit closer. Maybe not. But tonight, for the first time in many nights, the ache doesn't swallow you whole. Because love in this world isn't a constant. It's a current. Sometimes you drift together, sometimes apart. Sometimes you find yourself gasping for air, holding your own heartbeat like it's a broken shell in your palm. But eventually, the tide shifts. The ache softens. The fire burns on. And you eat. Alone, yes. But not unnoticed. Not unloved. Not forever. Your tooth still aches. Not from eating, from grinding. You caught yourself doing it again this morning, jaw tight, chewing invisible tension while you braided plant fibers. Someone joked you looked like you were preparing to bite a rock in half. You laughed, but only with your mouth, because you know what's really bothering you. It's the same thing that's been bothering you for days now. They're gone. Not dead. Not missing. Just moved on. And you're still carrying the token. Tonight we go deeper into the strange, beautiful, and sometimes painful world of early human symbolism in love. Welcome to Body Mods and Love Tokens. You slip your hand into the pouch on your hip and pull out the little thing, a smoothed pebble with a groove carved into it. Simple, small, almost nothing. Except it isn't. They gave it to you right before the last hunt. pressed it into your palm like it was sacred. Said nothing. Just a look, a nod, a touch to your chest. You kept it. You still carry it. And every time your hand brushes over it in the pouch, you feel both comforted and ridiculous. Because they're not coming back. But the token's still here. Let's talk about the objects people give when they like you, or want you, or sometimes used to. Mainstream archaeologists have found thousands of beads, pierced teeth-shaped shells, etched stones, and twisted metal coils dating back tens of thousands of years. Some were worn, some buried, some traded. But many are thought to have been tokens of affection. You've done it too. A feather tied around a wrist, a carved bone shared only with them, a bright red smear of ochre drawn in a line across their cheek, marking them lightly, lovingly. No words, just symbols, because even before grammar, humans knew how to mark each other. You glance around the fire. You see it everywhere. One young woman wears 3 red beads on a leather strip. Everyone knows who gave her the third. Another man has 2 horizontal scars, razor straight across his upper arm, cut with flint by his partner during a bonding ritual. He wears them like armor, like proof. One fringe theory suggests that early body modification tattoos, scarification piercings, didn't just signal status or beauty, but relational memory. A way to remember who touched you, who chose you, who changed you. You feel that, literally, because you've got a bead too, tucked into the cord you tie your satchel with. You tell people it's decorative. It's not. It's them. Gone now, yes, but when you close your fingers around that little knot of smooth stone, you feel it again, the way they smiled when they tied it there, how their fingers trembled, how yours did too. You think about pulling it off, tossing it into the fire. Dramatic, final. But you don't. Not yet. Elsewhere in the group, a new match has formed. You can tell by the fresh stripe of white clay painted down one person's spine. That's not hygiene. That's claim. Someone is saying, "I see you." The rest of us are saying, "We know." You remember an elder's story, once half-mumbled, mostly sung, about a couple who filed each other's teeth into matching points, bonded in pain. He said when one died, the other ground down their remaining teeth into nubs. You're not sure if it's true, but the image lingers. Love hurts even when you want it to. Quirky detail of the night. In some burials, archaeologists have found bodies adorned with beads that appear to have come from multiple people, fragments of other tokens combined. Was it a polyamorous farewell? A final act of communal affection, or just someone who couldn't choose? You wonder if anyone will bury you with this token. Probably not. You're still young, still trying, still grinding your teeth at night, apparently. Tonight, as you turn to settle into your furs, someone catches your eye. They've been sitting closer lately, not in a pushy way, just nearby. They offered you half a roasted insect earlier. You didn't take it. Maybe tomorrow. But for now, you untie your satchel slowly, slide the bead off the cord, hold it in your palm for a long time. It's small, simple, nothing special, except that it's everything. You don't throw it away, but you don't tie it back either. You wrap it in a scrap of hide and place it in a small crack in the cave wall. Not gone, not forgotten, just placed, set aside. Because love in this world isn't built to last. Not always. But the things we make for each other, they endure, sometimes longer than we do. The stranger doesn't look dangerous. That's the unsettling part. They walk like you do, wear their hair the same rough braid wrapped in bark cord. Their furs are dyed differently, sure, but their satchels the same style. Their hands bear the same kind of calluses. You recognize the wear of someone who's built fires and gutted fish. They smell like river mud and sweetgrass. Not wrong exactly, just not yours. Tonight, the winds brought a new scent into the circle, and with it a tension thicker than mammoth hide. This is the story of forbidden love across tribes. You shift uneasily as they approach the fire. They're alone, clearly exhausted, hungry, alert. They've been walking for days, maybe longer. Their feet are wrapped in cracked leather, one eye swollen. They're offered water. No one asks why they're here, not directly. But everyone is watching, especially her. You clock it immediately, the way she looks up when the stranger arrives, the way she doesn't look away, the twitch in her fingers, the sudden stillness in her breath. You've seen that look before, and not from her. You've given that look. Mainstream theories suggest early humans didn't operate in rigid, monolithic tribes, but rather in fluid bands, networks of families and allies. But the boundaries were real. You knew who was us and who was them, and crossing those lines is risky. Romantic, sure, but mostly dangerous. She gets up, walks to the stranger, offers a piece of roasted tuber. Gasps echo silently in everyone's throats. They take it. And your heart sinks a little, not because you wanted her, but because you recognize the unfolding shape of what comes next. Tension whispers, maybe a fight, maybe exile, maybe something worse. Historians still argue whether interband relationships were common or rare. Some evidence suggests they were necessary to prevent inbreeding, to build alliances. Others say they were feared, resisted, punished. It probably depended on the season, on the scarcity, on how much meat was left in the caches. Right now, it's been a hungry season, so this stranger, they're a wild card. You watch as she sits beside them, too close. Everyone sees. No one speaks, except the matriarch. Of course. She stands slowly, fur cloak dragging behind her like authority incarnate. The firelight makes her face look carved in stone. She doesn't scowl, doesn't bark. She simply says, "Do you know who they are?" And the girl answers, "Not yet." That's worse somehow. Because if she'd said yes, it could be about duty, alliance strategy. But not yet, that's about curiosity. That's about desire. You feel the shift ripple through the group. People start recalculating. Whispers begin. One of the men mutters, "What if they're a scout?" Another says. "What if they've already seen our food stores?" Someone sharpens a stone blade louder than necessary. You remember a story from your grandmother's voice about a woman who fell for a stranger and led him to her people. They fed him. He smiled. And then 2 nights later, his band came and burned the shelters. It's a warning tale, passed on through generations. And now it's a real possibility. Still, the girl stays beside the stranger. Still, he sits calm, eating, watching. And when she leans in close enough to brush his shoulder, no one stops her. But no one helps her either. You've felt this before. Once during the hot season when a trade group arrived with smoked fish and red ochre. One of them winked at you. You were young. You followed them past the river bend, kissed beneath the buzz of insects and the shadow of dragonflies. They left the next morning. You never saw them again. You still think about it. Still wonder what would have happened if you'd gone with them, or if they'd stayed. Fringe theory breaks. Some researchers believe early human songs, if you can call them that, might have started as love calls between distant groups. High tones meant to travel across valleys, a kind of audio flirting. I'm here. I'm listening. Are you listening too? Tonight the fire makes shadows climb the walls. The girl is laughing now. The stranger says nothing, but his hand rests on his knee open, waiting, an invitation. You want to be mad, but you're also intrigued, because you get it. Familiarity is safe, but new is thrilling and terrifying. It's why people throw away whole lives for a glance, a moment, a maybe. You've watched it happen, and now it's happening again. Someone near you mutters, they'll never let her keep him. Someone else replies, they won't have to. You don't ask what that means. You already know. Love isn't always safe here. Sometimes it's a fight. Sometimes it's a secret. Sometimes it's a trap, but always it's a choice. And she just made hers. Later, when most are asleep, you spot her sneaking off into the woods. He follows. You consider alerting someone. Then don't. Because honestly, you want to know what happens next, too. And if it all burns down, well, at least they lit the match together. Quirky final note. In some ancient cave paintings, two figures are drawn with arms interlinked, surrounded by others with weapons drawn. Some say it's a love story. Others say it's a warning. Either way, it's old. Older than words. Older than us. And maybe still happening. You wake to a scream. Not the panicked kind. Not the predators in the camp kind. A different sound, long, strained, primal. The kind of scream you only hear once in a while. But when you do it, freezes the air. Someone's giving birth. You sit up fast, still tangled in furs, heart thudding. Around you, others are already moving, two elders hurrying across the camp. A girl carrying water. Another pulling strips of hide from the drying rack. No one speaks, but everything's clear. It's happening. And you stay seated. Because this isn't your moment. This is theirs. And tonight, we're looking into one of the most vulnerable, chaotic, and deeply revealing parts of early human life: pregnancy, parenthood, and paternity. You've seen this before. The labor, the blood, the sobs that come before the first cry. The way people gather just close enough to help, but not close enough to interfere unless they're needed, unless something goes wrong. This isn't your partner, not now, but once they were, briefly. Which means, yes, this could be your child, but also it might not. That's the hard truth of prehistoric love. There is no test, no paperwork, no hospital band that says this one's yours. Just time, memory, and trust. And in a world where bonds shift and desire flows like water between people, paternity, it's a question, a hope, sometimes a gamble. Mainstream anthropologists suggest that early human groups practiced cooperative breeding, a system where child-rearing responsibilities were shared widely. Aunts, uncles, lovers, even unrelated group members all pitched in. Because the survival of a baby wasn't about whose it was about keeping it alive. Still, you know how people whisper. When a child is born, people look for resemblance. Eyes, nose, ears. They pretend they're not doing it, but they are. You've done it. You're doing it now. The scream comes again, shorter this time, then quiet. Then a new sound, wailing, loud, sharp, urgent, and alive. The whole camp shifts subtly, shoulders relax, a few murmurs ripple outward. No words, just relief. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. She did it. The baby's here. And now comes the rest. In your world, love often ends or begins with this moment. The child is both proof and question, a future and a wait, because now someone has to raise it, and someone has to claim it. You rise finally and make your way toward the birthing shelter. Not too close. Not yet. You see her. She's exhausted, pale eyes half shut, but she's holding the baby, cradling it against her chest like it's the last warm thing in the world. She sees you, holds your gaze for a second, then looks away. And just like that, you don't know. Maybe it's yours, maybe not. And it's not your place to ask. Fringe theory break in some early cultures. It's believed that multiple men could contribute to a pregnancy, not biologically accurate, but symbolically real. The child was thought to inherit qualities from each man the mother had lain with, which meant multiple fathers and fewer fights. Not a bad system, honestly. You glance around. A few others are doing what you're doing, standing just close enough to look. All of them wondering silently, is that one mine, and if so, what now? The answer isn't always clear. Some men step forward, take the child, carry it, feed the mother. Others step back, wait for signs, for invitation, for something. You're waiting, you're hoping, but you don't push. Later you'll see the child again, wrapped in fur, sleeping beside its mother, nose barely visible. You'll check for your eyes. You won't find them, but you'll watch over them anyway, because that's what people do here. You help, you protect, even when you're not sure if it's your blood. Because in a group this small, every child matters. And sometimes love isn't about knowing, it's about choosing. Quirky detail of the night. Some burial sites show children laid to rest with adults who weren't likely their biological parents based on age, sex, and DNA. But those adults were buried with the children, which means something. Claiming doesn't always require proof. Sometimes it just takes presence. Back in the camp, the girl who helped deliver the child sings softly, now an old rhythm, older than words. The kind passed down through birth after birth after birth. You recognize it. You once heard it when your younger sibling was born. You remember the firelight, the way everyone sat closer that night, the way nothing felt quite as dangerous. Because when a baby is born, everyone remembers we're still alive. You sit back down by the fire. The spot beside you fills again. Not with the baby's mother, someone else. Quiet, warm, close. You don't speak, but they place something in your hand. A small tuft of animal hair dyed with red ochre. It's a charm, for strength, for protection, for fathers. Your throat tightens. You don't know what this means yet, but it's a gesture. And sometimes gestures are enough. Because in this world, where life is short, and the line between yours and mine is blurred by smoke and song, love grows sideways. It binds not just partners, but communities. It raises children not just with genes, but with care. And tonight, one more cry joins the campfire chorus. One more life. One more chance to get it right. Even if you never know for sure. You didn't notice them at first. They were always around, always helpful. Good with the kids, good with their hands, quick to laugh, but never loud. They didn't sit with the hunters or the weavers. They didn't claim a role exactly. They floated between circles, belonging everywhere and nowhere. And then one day, you looked. Really looked. And something shifted. Tonight we step outside the binary. Beyond simple pairings, beyond his and hers, beyond roles set by firelight and spearhead. Because love, even in the Paleolithic, was never just one thing. Welcome to queer bonds in ancient clans. You sit beside them now, knees brushing not by accident. They're grinding pigment into ochre paste, slow, meditative, focused. You watch their hands, not in a romantic way, not yet, just interested. Mainstream anthropology has long framed early human societies in terms of reproductive dynamics. Male hunters, female gatherers, babies at the center. But more recent perspectives, and let's be honest, more honest perspectives, are beginning to trace the outlines of something wider, something softer, something far more flexible. Because gender attraction, bonding. They've never been rigid. They've always been human, even in the dirt, even before language. You ask them softly if they need help. They nod. You kneel. You dip your fingers in the crushed stone, mix it with water, spread it on leather. Their hands rest near yours. You notice now the details, the scars along their forearms, the fine beads woven into their shoulder wrap, the way they tilt their head, not boyish, not womanly, just them. You've seen them hold hands with women. You've seen them laugh under firs with men. You've seen them dance alone in moonlight and never look like they're waiting to be claimed. You've seen them claimed anyway. Historians still argue whether early societies recognized non-binary identities consciously with names and roles. The evidence is fragmented bones buried with objects not aligned with their expected sex figures, painted with both breasts and spears, skeletons wearing the adornments of the other side. Some call these anomalies. Others call them people. You glance at them again. They're watching you now, but not coyly, not seductively. Open, present. You feel your stomach flip. Fringe theory break. Some researchers believe certain early human groups may have designated third gender roles not as a novelty, but as a functional spiritual bridge. These individuals were matchmakers, healers, story keepers, peace weavers. Not despite their fluidity, but because of it. You don't need theory to see it. They make everyone feel seen. They made you feel seen. Long before you knew why. There's a story you remember sung by an elder when you were small, about two warriors, both men, who fought back to back in a great hunt. When the beast fell, they touched foreheads, pressed blood to each other's chests, and never left each other's side again. It was called the twin bond. Not just warriors, partners. They were never mocked in the story, never corrected. They were honored. You didn't understand then. You might now. You and the one beside you have finished mixing the ochre. They wipe their hands on hide. You watch the paste dry slowly on your own skin, staining it a deep, earthy red. They don't speak, but they touch your hand. Palm to palm. A gesture. Not possession. Not proposal. Just connection. You sit there like that for a long time. Someone walks past, glances down, smiles not cruelly, just knowingly. It's not scandal. It's not spectacle. It's life. One quirky archaeological detail. In one Upper Paleolithic site, a body was found buried with both hunting tools and ornate beadwork lying on its side in a posture typically reserved for women, but with skull features genetically identified as male. It was buried with care, with ritual. Someone grieved them. Someone loved them. You think about what it means to belong outside expectation in a world that values survival. Turns out, sometimes flexibility is survival. You've seen how they move through conflict, calm, intuitive, aware of what people mean before they say it. You've seen them hold the weeping, lift the wounded, teach the curious. They don't need to take space. Space forms around them. You want to ask what they are, but there's no word for it here. So instead, you just say, "You feel right." And they smile. That's enough. Later, as the fire burns low and people settle into sleep, you find yourself pulling your furs a little wider. Not an invitation, not pressure, just possibility. And they accept it. They curl beside you, not in a tangle, not with urgency, with peace. And maybe, just maybe, with a hint of promise. Because in this world, love takes many forms. It doesn't need categories, or definitions, or rules. It only needs warmth, touch, breath shared between ribs, and the courage to lean close to someone who simply feels right, even when nothing else does. You haven't eaten today. Not really. A few berries. A scrap of bark someone left by the fire. You're saving your energy. You're waiting. Not for food, for a moment. The band's been tense lately. Low stores, no recent kills. 2 minor injuries, 1 serious. A child with a persistent cough. The fire's burning, but the mood cold. That's when it starts happening. The subtle glance, the quiet approach, the trade, the offer that isn't spoken out loud. Because in this world, sometimes desire doesn't rise from abundance. Sometimes seduction is survival. Tonight we step into the dim, complicated space where instinct and strategy meet seduction versus survival. You shift where you sit, letting the smoke curl over you like a curtain. You're watching them. They've been circling for hours. Not in a hurry, not obvious. But their hunger is written in their walk, in the way they hold their spine like they're conserving heat from inside. They need something, and you might give it. Or not. Mainstream anthropologists tread carefully here, but the truth is hard to ignore. In early human societies, sex and survival were sometimes intertwined. Intimacy wasn't always about love, or even attraction. It could be about safety, protection, position, trade, and yes, power. You remember once long ago when you were younger, weaker. You offered a dried fish to someone stronger, more connected. They smiled, shared it. That night you curled up beside them, grateful for the warmth. It wasn't romance, but it mattered. Tonight, the roles are reversed. They move toward you now, slow, open-handed. You smell smoke and hunger on them, but also something else need. Not just for food, for permission. You hand them the rest of your route. They take it. Not greedily, gratefully. A pause, and then a touch to your knee. Not light. Intentional. You feel it buzz through your whole body. This isn't courtship. This is negotiation. Fringe theory break. Some scholars suggest that early humans may have engaged in what could be called transactional intimacy, though that phrase is too modern, too clinical. Think of it more like an exchange of comfort, for care sex, for support, presence, for protection. Not all the time, not always consciously, but often enough. And in times like this, lean times, dangerous times, those exchanges become more visible, more human, more necessary. They look at you now, eyes lowered. They're not asking, they're offering. And you weigh the moment. You think of nights ahead, of cold air, of what it means to have someone beside you when the others are asleep and the predators circle close, of what it means to owe or to be owed. You nod. That's it. No words. Just movement. Later, lying under the hides, you feel the soft curve of their shoulder against yours. They say nothing. Neither do you. But they exhale long and slow. And you know you've given them something more than food. You've given them safety. You've given them tonight. Historians still argue whether these bonds were seen as equal. Were their victims exploiters, perhaps? But the reality is more tangled. In a world of scarcity, intimacy could be mutual comfort, or silent desperation, or both at once. You've been on both sides. You've used charm to get extra meat. You've given your warmth to avoid a lonely night. You've offered your time, your hands, your body, not always with joy, but never without reason. Because that's the difference here. Every touch carries weight. Every glance costs. And affection, it doesn't come free. Quirky detail of the night, some surviving hunter-gatherer cultures today still maintain gift economies of intimacy, where sex is seen not as a commodity, but a form of generosity, of soft power, of social glue. It's not business, it's balancing. The one beside you is already asleep. They haven't thanked you. They don't need to. Tomorrow they might carry water for you, or tend your wound, or step between you and something with teeth, not because they owe you, but because this is how bonds form in a world that doesn't forgive isolation. You watch their chest rise and fall. You feel the ghost of their touch still lingering on your leg. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even entirely wanted. But it was real. And maybe that's enough. Because love in this world isn't just flowers and feathers and hand-carved beads. It's not just eyes across the fire or fingers brushed under furs. Sometimes it's a gesture of mercy in a moment of need, a deal made in the dark, a hunger softened just enough to survive another night. You find the body at dawn, not someone from your group, a stranger, face half covered in mud and leaves, arms bent at unnatural angles, one leg chewed clean down to bone. Not fresh, but not old either. You call out softly. Others gather. Some kneel. Someone murmurs a blessing, just sound and breath, no words, but it feels heavy all the same. This is what's left after a raid. Not the predator kind, the human kind. And tonight, as you sit close to the fire, blades nearby, backs tense, everyone quiet, you start thinking about how strange it is that love still happens in all this. Because tonight's chapter, it's not pretty, but it's real. Tonight we slip into the uneasy rhythm of love amid violence. You stay alert as the fire crackles. One of the elders sharpens their blade with long, careful strokes. Another tends to the perimeter with ash markings warding symbols meant to protect. You're not sure they work, but no one questions them, because fear makes people quiet. And in that quiet, desire still stirs. Strange, isn't it, that even in the shadow of blood and loss and missing members, people still reach for each other, still fall into arms and warmth, still want. Mainstream anthropologists acknowledge this duality. Early human societies were often in cycles of scarcity, conflict, and displacement. And yet during those exact times, pair bonds intensified. New connections formed. Affection bloomed like weeds in broken earth. It makes sense. When death is close, love gets louder. You remember last season, after a predator dragged off one of the scouts. The group stayed up all night, huddled together, shaking. And in the middle of that fear, two people who'd never shown much interest in each other simply linked hands. By morning, they were paired. By next moon, inseparable. You see it happening again now. After the raid that left one of your shelters smashed after the disappearance of two elders, the whole group seems to pulse with strange, nervous energy. Laughter comes sharper. Jokes are darker. Flirting is faster. Tonight, one of the hunters is sitting too close to the healer. They weren't close before, now practically tangled. You can't blame them. Fear accelerates everything, desire included. You've felt it too. That urge to grab someone, pull them close, press skin to skin, and feel something alive. Not love, not always. Sometimes it's just panic wearing a mask of passion, but sometimes that mask melts into something real. Fringe theory. Some researchers argue that trauma may have directly contributed to stronger pair bonds in early humans. That through shared crisis, injury, battle, natural disaster, our brains learn to latch onto, cling tighter to need each other more. Not weakness. Adaptation. You feel that now. Someone sits beside you. They weren't close to you before. Not emotionally. But tonight, they are. Their leg presses against yours, not quite seeking comfort, not quite offering it, just sharing heat. You don't move away. You glance at them. They glance back. There's no smile, no flirtation, just a question in the eyes. Are we okay? And your answer is silence. But your silence says yes. You think about violence in love, not just outside the raids, the threats, the wounds, inside too. The couple who fight with words made of fire and glances that cut like stone blades, but still sleep curled like pups beneath the same hide. The way passion sometimes bleeds into aggression, then back again. You've seen it. You've done it. You remember one partner who used to challenge you to wrestling matches, not playfully, to win, to dominate, and how afterward they'd kiss your bruises with trembling hands. Complicated always. Wrong, who knows? Historians still debate whether early love carried rules. Were there boundaries, expectations? Did people cheat? Were there consequences? Likely yes, but not like now. Emotional regulation came slow over centuries. Before that, it was instinct and improvisation, and in times of war, it was survival. You heard a story once, passed down from the cave beyond the river, about two people opposite sides of a tribal feud who met during a standoff. Not fighters, just food gatherers. They saw each other in the middle of the chaos. They ran, together. The story ends with them being hunted, but also with them hiding in the cliffs, building a fire together, watching the stars, while their clans tore each other apart below. They died there, but not alone. Quirky detail of the night. A set of 12,000-year-old remains was discovered buried side by side in Israel, one a man, the other a woman. The man had a serious spinal injury. The woman, far younger, was buried with her hand resting over his chest. Some say she was his caretaker. Others say his lover. We'll never know, but you can picture it, can't you? Two people battered by time and war, still choosing each other, still reaching. Back at the fire, someone starts humming, a slow, low tune. Not a song of joy, a song of presence. The person beside you hums with them. So do you. It echoes through this camp, past the broken shelters, and into the trees where the night hides its teeth. Love doesn't make sense here. It's inconvenient, risky, sometimes reckless. But it's also resistance. To fear, to death, to silence. And tonight, as someone places their head on your shoulder and you let it rest there, you realize the war outside doesn't cancel the warmth inside. And love fights back, even if it loses, even if it limps, even if it dies in the end. It always shows up. The moon is high, silver-white, sitting heavy above the trees like a quiet, watchful eye. Smoke curls from the center fire, but there's another smell on the air tonight, sweet, sharp, and strange. Someone's burning something different. Not meat, not hide. Leaves. You know this smell. You've smelled it during the dances that last until dawn, during the chants that make your skin prickle, during the nights when people stop talking and just move. Tonight is one of those nights. Tonight is ritual. And in the flickering firelight, as someone begins to hum and others gather in a wide, slow-moving circle, you feel it coming. Welcome to the pulse beneath the surface, rituals, drugs, and trances. You sit cross-legged on packed earth. Around you, others are swaying, not wildly, not drunkenly, but like reeds in water. Controlled, focused, tension rising. Tonight is about fertility, not just in the body, in spirit, in connection, in love. Mainstream theory tells us that early human rituals weren't just about rain food or safe hunts. They were social glue, a way to release tension and bind people together, a way to elevate simple existence into something sacred. And sometimes they involved touching, kissing, pairing, more. Not forced, not careless. Something transcendent. You watch as the elder tosses another bundle onto the fire, thick-leafed and bittersweet, harvested only during the cold moon. It crackles, then releases a pale blue smoke that coils low across the ground. Your breath slows. Your skin feels different, tighter, but light, like it could float away. They start to paint you, not with your consent because you don't need to speak it. That's not how tonight works. You sit still as warm fingers press red ochre across your chest, a thumb swipe across your collarbone, a spiral on your thigh, a handprint on your back. You're being marked. You're not the only one. The fire glows brighter, but not hotter. Or maybe you're just cold inside, or warm. You can't tell. The sound in the camp has changed, not speech anymore, not laughter. Something older. Mouths open. No words. Only rhythm, fringe theory. Some archaeologists believe that psychoactive plants were used in early ritual, not only for spiritual vision, but to break down social boundaries. To let love, desire, affection, and connection flow freely in safe, intentional space. Sound like a Paleolithic rave, kind of. Except no one's dancing for show. They're dancing to dissolve, to become something new. Someone takes your hand. You don't know them well, but tonight you do. They press their forehead to yours. Your bodies move together, not in hunger, not in lust, but in perfect mirrored rhythm. You lean left, they lean right. You breathe in, they breathe out. It's not sexual, but it could be. And if it becomes that, it's blessed. Because this night is for opening doors, not locking them. You've seen this happen before. Quiet bonds forming in the smoke. Two people who barely acknowledged each other before suddenly swaying together like vines entwining. Then the next morning, they're different. Not a couple necessarily, but seen, connected, marked. The group accepts it. You remember a story, a ritual called the moon crossing, where couples usually matched by the matriarchs would walk blindfolded through fire smoke holding hands, trusting that the right one would be there on the other side. If they let go, they weren't meant. If they held, they were bound for a season, sometimes longer. Quirky detail of the night. In one ancient cave, red ochre markings show interlinked circles and mirrored human forms believed to represent ritual dance. At the very center, two figures drawn nose to nose. Not warriors, not gods, just lovers. Back at the fire, someone starts to sing. High, breathless. Not a melody, just tone arcing like bird wings. People answer with movement. You close your eyes. You feel fingers on your cheek, gentle. Lips brush your temple. You don't open your eyes. You don't need to. This isn't about who, this is about what. What you become together in the trance, in the ritual. Not a couple, not individuals. Just a pulse, a wave, a flame curling upward. Time passes or it doesn't. Eventually bodies slow. The smoke thins. The silence after the last song is thick. One by one people sit, breathe, return. But something remains. You open your eyes and look around, and the person beside you still there, still holding your hand. They smile, and it's different. Not romantic, not sexual, something deeper. You are seen, they are seen, and love. Tonight, love is sacred. Not because of who you chose, but how. In smoke, in sound, in rhythm older than language. Love isn't always born in conversation. Sometimes it's called down like thunder, painted on the body, lifted on a song that no one remembers learning, but everyone knows how to sing. It starts with a hiss and a crack. Someone's tossing beetle shells into the fire again. Not for warmth, not for fun, for smell, for mood, for something deeper. A few moments later, the air is thick with that weird, earthy tang. Not unpleasant, just strong. It tickles your throat and makes your skin feel sensitive, like your nerves woke up early and didn't tell the rest of you. Then the whispers begin. I heard it works better if you smear it on your tongue. My mother said it only works if you don't know what's in it. Careful too much, and you'll end up married. Tonight isn't about love songs or longing glances. Tonight's about the tricks people try when longing alone won't cut it. Welcome to the bizarre, experimental, and often disgusting history of animal helpers and aphrodisiacs. You shift closer to the fire partly to stay warm, partly because you're curious. A young man is holding up a wrinkled, fuzzy object that looks like either a mushroom or a very sad foot. He's grinning like it's treasure. Found it near the river, he says, where the deer go. The others lean in, murmurs, eyebrows raised. You recognize it now. It's stag fungus, legendary among your people, said to awaken desire, strengthen performance, and attract mates with its musky, pungent aroma. You've tried it once. Didn't end well. Let's be honest, most of these prehistoric love enhancers are less about chemistry and more about hope. But in a world without medicine, perfume, or dating apps, sometimes licking a bitter fungus seems as reasonable as flirting. Mainstream anthropology confirms that many hunter-gatherer groups across the globe used animal-derived substances and plants to enhance desire or signal fertility. Think dried lizard skin, powdered hornbee venom, certain types of moss, and of course, the infamous shellfish solution. Yeah, we'll get there. Fringe theory time. Some believe early humans learned about aphrodisiacs from watching animals, seeing what they ate during mating seasons and copying it. Monkey see monkey get lucky. You eye the fire again. Someone's now adding crushed insects to the mix. One beetle in particular emits a chemical that causes tingling when burned. The theory, it stirs people up. The reality, it mostly makes everyone sneeze. But hey, if it gives you an edge. You look across the fire and see two people whispering over a lump of what looks like clay mixed with something stringy. Someone says it's crocodile dung. Another says it's aphrodisiac toothpaste. You're not sure whether to laugh or run. But this is how it works in your world. Desire isn't always spontaneous. Sometimes you nudge it. You apply paint, you chew leaves, you smear strange pastes on your chest, hoping the scent will drift into the right person's awareness. Some of it's harmless. Some of it works though, whether that's chemistry or confidence, no one knows. You've done it too, don't lie. Last season you rubbed wild mint oil onto your neck and wrists before a dance. Subtle, clean. You swore it made your skin tingle, and maybe, just maybe, made someone sit a little closer than usual. They said nothing, but they stayed, and that was enough. Quirky fact of the night, archaeologists discovered a pouch buried with an Ice Age woman containing over 20 different roots, herbs, and insect fragments. Some were medicinal, others known for scent or stimulation in modern equivalents. A love doctor's toolkit, perhaps, or maybe she just liked strong tea. You think about the idea of animals as helpers, not just for hunting, for love. You've seen it, someone bringing a particularly flashy beetle to offer as a gift. Another mimicking a mating call they once heard from a bird. A man last year literally braided his hair to mimic the stripes of a jungle cat. He called it predator charm. It worked for about 3 nights. Then she left him for someone with actual meat. You can't fake everything, but it's not all a joke. There's reverence too. You once watched someone serious, focused, grind turtle shell into powder, whispering to it like a spirit. Then they dabbed it on their own tongue, closed their eyes, and waited. 2 hours later, they started weeping. Not sure what that meant, but they seemed happy. You think love is strange, but also it's no stranger than rubbing fermented honey and ant guts on your chest because someone swore it made people dream of you. Did it work? Yes. Tonight, as the fire burns, someone hands you something soft and warm wrapped in a leaf. You unwrap it carefully. Inside, roasted shellfish. The good kind. Not common here. Brought from the coast. Rich in protein. And some claim capable of unlocking your passion center. Whatever that is. You glance up. They're watching you, not smiling, just waiting. You take a bite. It's salty, savory, warm. You hand them the second piece. They take it. Their fingers brush yours. Your skin buzzes. And sure, maybe that's the minerals. Or maybe it's working. Later that night, you lie beside them. Not wrapped around each other. Not yet. Just sharing heat. The air still smells like beetles and fire and bad decisions. But something in your chest feels lighter. Like possibility. Like maybe. Because love in this world isn't pure. It's messy. It's experimental. It's scraping the bottom of the food pouch, hoping you find something spicy. And sometimes it's licking a root that tastes like sadness, just to see if someone might sit closer. And if they do, it wasn't the plant. It was you. And the courage to try something weird. For love. You dream of fireflies. Not the kind that blink and flit. Larger. Slower. Like tiny stars crawling across your skin. Each one warm but not hot. Each one whispering something, your name maybe, or someone else's. You wake with the echo of it still in your ears. Your eyes adjust to the dark. The camp is asleep. A few coals still glow under a layer of ash. You sit up, heart ticking too fast for this hour. Something pulled you from sleep, but it wasn't fear. It was longing. And not for anyone you've seen. You've had this dream before, and you know what it means. Tonight's journey isn't rooted in meat fire or scent. It drifts higher into symbols, stories, and the shimmering line between night and knowing. Tonight we're reaching for what can't be hunted. Dream spirits and soulmates. You wrap your fur around your shoulders and step outside the cave. The stars above are bright enough to read faces by. A light wind presses against your ears like a hush. Behind you, the others sleep twitching and murmuring, tangled in their own private myths. Because that's what dreams are here. Not nonsense, not glitches in the brain. They're messages from ancestors, from spirits, from the earth itself. Mainstream anthropologists agree dreams held enormous power for early humans. They shaped behavior, inspired migrations, even triggered pairings. If you dreamed of someone 3 times, you didn't ignore it. You went to them, or risked regret forever. You once heard of a woman who dreamed of the same man every full moon. They weren't paired, barely spoke. But after the 4th dream, she approached him. No food, no smile, just this. I see you in the dark. They were together by the next sunrise. You think about your own dreams. How often someone appears faceless but familiar. How they touch your wrist, or whisper something into your neck, or lead you toward a cliff where everything is light and nothing hurts. You've woken from those dreams aching, and some part of you believes that person is real, that they're out there, somewhere. Fringe theory break. There's archaeological speculation that ancient cave symbols, spirals, branching lines, eye shapes, may have come not from nature, but from dreams. Repeated images seen in sleep, then scratched into stone in the morning light. Visions shared between people like a silent language. You've scratched some of your own, onto bark, into dirt. One particular symbol keeps coming back, a hand open, holding a flame. You don't know what it means, but it's always there. You walk quietly through the brush, now feet silent. A few others are awake, not many. One is sitting by a tree, staring at the stars. Another is muttering softly, tossing bones, reading their shapes like sentences. You move past them, into the glade, where the sky opens, and you feel seen. This is where you come when you need to listen, not with your ears, with whatever part of you still believes that love is written before it's lived. You lie back in the grass, chilled dew kissing your shoulders. The stars blur as your eyes adjust, and slowly you begin to let the dreams return, not in sleep, but in memory. You see hands again, a voice, a face you almost know, not someone in the group, someone you haven't met, yet. Historians still argue over whether early humans believed in soulmates the way we do now. But there's evidence of something like it, rituals where people called out into the night, or slept under specific trees, or bathed in moonlit rivers to invite the one meant for them. Not as command, as invitation. You've done it too. Not with words, with waiting, with being ready. You hear movement nearby, not a predator, not a threat. Soft footsteps. You don't look. You already know. They lie beside you without speaking. Your arms don't touch, but your shadows overlap. And you know they've seen something too, in sleep, or in vision, or in that strange space between. Quirky detail of the night. In some early graves, pairs of people are buried facing each other, hands intertwined. In one case, their skulls are gently touching, as if listening, even in death. Some believe these are ritual soulmates, joined not in life, but in sleep or in story. You close your eyes. You feel them beside you. You think of the dream, the fireflies, the touch, and you know this is real, or close enough. Because love in this world isn't just about bodies and meat and matches made by elders. Sometimes it's about echoes, about visions, about waking up with someone's name in your mouth that you've never said aloud, about lying in the grass under a sky full of stories and hoping, just hoping, that somewhere someone is dreaming of you and walking toward you. Even now. You're sitting by the fire again. It's late. Most have gone to sleep. Someone is still humming softly, but it's more reflex than performance, like their throat can't help itself in the presence of embers. You're chewing on a strip of dried meat, not because you're hungry, but because it helps you stay awake. You're waiting, not for someone, for a story. And sure enough, it begins. A voice rises from the other side of the fire, low rasping, just loud enough to carry. She loved him more than the hunt, more than the fire. So she followed him across the ice, even when it cracked beneath her. You glance up. The speaker is one of the oldest among you, white hair braided with shell fragments, eyes half closed like they're seeing a world layered beneath this one. Everyone else leans in slightly, because these are the stories, not the histories you remember, the ones you feel. Tonight's theme is the soft, eternal ache behind so much of what we do, legends of lovers lost. They continue. She fell into the water just once. He pulled her out, but she was colder after. Days passed. She stopped eating. On the 6th night, she kissed his hand and said, "I would have followed you farther." Then she stopped breathing. Silence follows. It's not tragic. Not exactly. It's familiar. Mainstream scholars agree storytelling was a glue for early human culture, used to teach worn, preserved memory. But the love stories, those were something else. Not instructional, emotional, communal, cathartic. You remember the others, too. The story of the boy who carved a mask to impress a girl, only for her to fall for his brother instead. The woman who lit a fire every night for the man who went east and never returned. The man who promised he'd return after 3 moons and came back 3 years later with a new name and different eyes. These stories don't always end well, but they end. And that's the point. They give shape to feelings that don't fit anywhere else. Fringe theory time. Some researchers believe early love legends were told not just to entertain or explain, but to give people permission to grieve, to miss someone, to long, to let go. Your group tells them with a kind of reverence, never loudly, never boastfully, and always at night, always near flame. Because grief needs shadows to stretch out in. You hear another voice now, a younger one. What about the 2 who left because no one would let them stay? Ah, that one. Even the elder smiles. They walked north, they say, up into the snow. They were barefoot, had no weapons, only each other. They died that night. Someone scoffs, romantic. No, the elder says. But brave. You let that settle. Then someone quiet, sharp-eyed adds, "I heard they didn't die. I heard they found others, started a new group, one where you could lie with whoever you chose." Someone laughs. That's a story for fools, but the elder only nods. All love stories are. And that's the thing about these tales. They're tools. Not always to believe, but to feel through. To say what can't be said, especially in a world where language is still new and raw. You've told one once, not out loud, but to yourself, about someone who used to sleep beside you, who stopped touching your hand in the dark, who whispered another's name in their sleep one night and didn't know you heard. You didn't get angry. You just wrote a story in your head about a person who melted into smoke because their heart had to live in 2 places at once. You never told it, but you remember it. Quirky detail of the night, one Paleolithic cave wall shows a series of figures in a circle, 12 individuals, each connected by lines surrounding a pair at the center. The pair is drawn with exaggerated arms, outstretched, reaching for each other. The lines to them are cut. Some believe it's a cautionary tale. Others, a tragic celebration. Tonight, the elder finishes their story. They lean back, satisfied. He carved her face into a stone, left it at the place where she died. Years later, another woman found it, said she dreamed of the same face, said it looked like her. Someone claps quietly. Not applause. Thanks. And you feel your heart ache a little, not from regret, not from loss, from recognition. Because stories like these tell you it's okay to have loved someone who didn't stay. It's okay to remember, to hope, to make up endings when real ones never came. Love here is brief sometimes, fragile. But stories, they last longer than bone, longer than scent, longer than the names you forgot to carve. Tonight, as the fire dwindles and the last storyteller dozes off, you sit a little longer, eyes on the stars, wondering who might one day tell your story, and whether it will be beautiful, or warning, or both. The night is heavy with quiet. Not silence, never silence, but that thick hush that comes after too many voices, too many songs, too many truths spilled out under the same stars. Someone shifts in the furs beside you. A soft exhale. No words. And you're still awake. Not because you're restless, because you're remembering. All of it. The heat, the hunger, the touches and tokens and tangled meanings, the ache of loss, the thrill of chance, the way a single look across firelight could bloom into something too big for your hands. It's been a long journey, hasn't it? And tonight, we close it gently. Welcome to the last ember, evolving love still familiar. You sit up slowly, letting the air cool your skin. In front of you, the fire is mostly ash, the occasional glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Around you, scattered breaths of sleep, the rhythmic cough of the old one. A child whimpering in their dream. Someone muttering a name not spoken during the day. So much has changed since the first time you felt a spark stir in your chest at the sight of another. So much hasn't. Mainstream historians might give neat chapters the rise of agriculture, of permanent settlements, of dowries and contracts and jealousies you could write down. But long before all of that, humans were already loving and losing like experts. Love didn't begin with marriage, or writing, or rules. It began with breath, with glances, with that split-second risk to lean in and not be turned away. You've taken that risk. And sometimes, yes, it burned you. Sometimes it healed you too. The one who painted your name on their thigh. The one who carved a bead and left it where only you would find it. The one you held as they died, whose scent still curls around the inside of your memory like smoke. You carry all of them. We all do. Fringe theory moment. Some scholars believe early human memory evolved in part because of relationships that the people who remembered, who loved, who hurt, who left, who stayed, were more likely to survive, more likely to be trusted, more likely to matter, and maybe more likely to be mourned. Tonight, you trace the curve of your own palm and remember the hands that once held it. So many shapes, so many endings, and still you reach. We all do. Quirky detail to close. One grave 20,000 years old contained two people laid together, facing away from each other. But between them, a single carved figure, genderless, abstract, hands pressed to its chest. Some say it was their child. Some say it was their spirit. Some say it was love itself. You lie back now, staring up at the sky, watching stars blink in their endless dance, so far away, so impossibly old, but still familiar. Because even now, under different stars, in a different body, wearing different fears, you know the feeling. You've waited for someone. You've watched them walk away. You've hoped. You've healed. You've reached again, and again, and again. Love hasn't changed. We have. But the bones of it, still here, still tender, still pulsing under your ribs every time someone looks at you like you might be more than just a heartbeat in the crowd. And maybe you are. Maybe we all are. Which brings us here, to this last breath, to this closing fire, to this story still unfinished, because someone will tell yours one day. And when they do, may it be full of laughter, of mistakes, of nights like this, of love, messy, shapeless, beautiful love that made the dark seem just a little bit warmer, just like now. Wind down 300 words. So now you lie still. Your eyes are heavy, your body warm, and all the noise, the dances, the arguments, the trances, the tangled limbs and lost names, it starts to soften, like mist pulling back from the morning grass. You're safe. You're here. Your breath is slow. The people you loved, the ones who held your hand under the stars or pressed a token into your palm, some stayed, some didn't. But none of it was wasted. Because love is never wasted. Not in this world. Not in any world. It changes you, softens edges, sharpens instincts. It teaches. It remembers. Let it. Let yourself remember the first look, the first dream, the first time someone made you laugh, when all you wanted was to disappear. And now let those memories fade. Not gone, just tucked into the corners of your chest, like beads in a pouch, like carvings in stone. The fire is gone now, but the warmth is not. It lingers, because love does that. Even the kind we don't speak about, even the kind we never understand. So rest. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw loosen. Let the ache in your chest be soft tonight, not sharp. You made it. You've walked through 1,000 years of longing. You've survived every kind of goodbye. And still you're here. Still breathing. Still hoping. Still open. Let sleep take you now. Let dreams find you. And if you see someone in that dream smiling, reaching, whispering your name, maybe say it back. Maybe reach too, just to see what happens. Good night.